Good morning and welcome, or good morning, good afternoon,
Good
or
morning
good
for
evening.
this.
Good morning. I guess wherever you're watching us from, it could be good morning. Good evening. Welcome to episode 182 of Cantinho Benfiquista podcast, Getting a Second Chance. As always, I am your host. I am joined by Oscar and Bill. Oscar, who's returned to the Sunshine State after spending some time in some fall type weather here in Massachusetts. I'll go from left to right. Bill, welcome back. Another week. We were gone last week. Things were a bit hectic, but a lot has changed since we last were here. How are you?
Yep, doing good. Getting the head wrapped around Bruno Lage being back, and we'll dive into that. So,
We'll get
but
to it.
all in all, good.
Oscar, how are you doing?
You guys look a little cold up there. How's the weather?
Oh, it's
Good?
warm.
It was actually nice today. It was in
I
like
see. I
low
see Bill
70s.
with a jacket. You with a jacket.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Everything is good. Good weekend. We had we got Jason hitched, so it was
Yeah.
really good.
Shout out to our boy Jason, who tied the knot with his bride, Stephanie, on Saturday. A good evening. We got a photo with the boys. Bill was too busy riding his bicycle in Maine, trying to be a hero. But would you do 50 miles?
50 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is trying to be a hero. But it was a good weekend overall. Tonight, we have some interesting topics to discuss. We've got the transfer window. Last time we were here, the transfer window was not closed yet. We made some late deals. We'll talk about that. We will talk about, obviously, the departure of Roger Schmidt, to the excitement of most. I guess at that point, I think most, if not all, were already at the breaking point. Some took longer than others. I'll put my hand up and say that I was one of the ones that took longer than others. But Bruno Lage is back. After his first stint, he has returned to Benfica. We will talk about whether he was or not our preference. Would he have been a preference? But we'll talk about kind of the context of the situation and why it makes sense, at least in this moment. And we'll look ahead to Santa Clara at the weekend. Maybe we can make some predictions in terms of where we think he'll go with the starting 11 and a team that obviously is not his, but he's not new to taking over teams that aren't his. He did it with the first stint at Benfica, and he pulled a rabbit out of a hat and made it work. So if anything, while he wasn't my first preference, I'm hopeful that he can pull a rabbit out of a hat again, and give us another epic comeback, although this one's not as big and he's got a lot more time to work with, but we'll get there. Don't forget to, if you're checking us out on YouTube, hit the like button on this video. We'd appreciate it. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're nearing closer to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Overall, we're over 50K on all platforms, which is great. So keep making sure that you follow, like, subscribe across all the various platforms. And if you're tuning in live, leave us your comments, your thoughts, your feedback, your opinions. I'll also drop a link in the on the banner across the bottom for a link if you want to call in and join and give us your thoughts. Tiago says, boa noite, maltinha, grande intro. Abraço, Tiago. Rui, boo, Oscar, soccer fan, angry whistling. Welcome back, Rui. Again, keep it interactive. Let us know what you're thinking. Para quem esteja a ver e prefere o podcast em português, nós todos percebemos português, por isso esteja à vontade de participar aqui nesta nossa conversa. Quarta-feira teremos o podcast em português moderado pelo Luís, a partir das 21h30, com um painel diferente e uma ou duas estreias no podcast de dois paineleiros diferentes, por isso estejam atentos. Teremos uma presença nova entre os membros do nosso cantinho, que irão fazer a sua estreia no podcast na quarta-feira. Por isso, a partir das 21h30, hora de Lisboa, estejam atentos, mas estejam à vontade de participar aqui neste nosso podcast, que todos falamos e percebemos português. SLBS is back, gents. Welcome back. All right. Let's dive right in. Do we want to start with the transfer window, or we can go straight into Bruno Lage? Maybe let's start with the transfer window, because that's what closed first, and then Bruno Lage came after. In terms of the transfer window, we had already talked bits and pieces. I think the most noteworthy, I guess, discussions is obviously the arrival of Kerem, our Turkish magician, who put a hat trick today for Turkey, and obviously the departure of Marcos Leonardo, late in the window to Al Hilal for 40 million. Moratu was after. I can't remember if we were on before he went or didn't. I think he was late also. If I'm not, I think he was announced was it the day that Roger Schmidt was departed? Something along those lines. I think it was close to that day. But Morata leaves to Nottingham Forest for 11 million. Apart from that, I think those are the two. Oh, and Joe Mario. I can't forget Joe Mario, who has parted ways to Besiktas. The rumor was that it was a loan with an obligation to buy, but I've also seen rumors that he signed a permanent deal for 2 million, between 2 to 5 million. But lo and behold, I think he's obviously not coming back to Benfica. His departure is going to be permanent. I guess let's start on the incoming. Obviously, we haven't seen him. There's been a lot of buzz around him. He scored a hat trick today. Oscar had a good comeback to Bill's comment in our group chat today. Bill said he scored a golazo. And Oscar, what was your response?
Somebody else scored golazos for Benfica. His name was Laurent Robert.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Yeah, the highlights show golazos. That's going to be fun. I want to see him playing.
Yeah. So I mean, again, there's a lot of hype around him. I guess time will tell. I know the Galatasaray fans were upset that he left. I don't know, for those of you who did or didn't see, there was a video of a young Galatasaray fan. I believe his name is Ruzgar. His mom recorded him, and he was crying on the couch. He was upset that he had left. There was a lot of buzz around the video. We had reached out. I was able to get a hold of his mom on Twitter, and we were able to send him a Benfica jersey with Kerem's name and number on the back of it. It got stuck in customs in Istanbul, but his mom was able to work with DHL, and hopefully we'll have some pictures of him with the uniform this week that we'll be able to share. So I think we're creating an alliance here with Galatasaray and their fans, because I mean we got like 500 new followers on Twitter within like 24 hours of Turkish fans sending me messages in Turkish that I didn't understand. I had to ask Bill.
Google
like,
Translate.
Does Google or does Twitter automatically translate languages? And then he had the option. I didn't have the option. I was like, is my Twitter broken? What the hell's going on? I got messages that I don't even know what the hell they're saying to me. So hopefully building an alliance there with the Turkish fans, which would be great. There's a lot of people that support Galatasaray. They're like the Benfica of Turkey, but a lot more population when it comes to that country. On the departures, Marcos Leonardo and Moratu. I know we've talked a lot about Moratu specifically. Marcos Leonardo, he wasn't here long enough. Oscar, what are your takeaways from these two?
I mean, I think Marcos Leonardo would have been an asset to us. I think he just needed more time. But I think if I was to guess, he was the one who asked to leave because of Pavlidis coming in, and it would have been a tough situation for him to get minutes and all that. But I think he would have been an asset. I think he would have been our second striker. But if he didn't go, I think Cabral would have to go. Keep three.
I think that was part of the issue too. I think the later we got in the transfer window, the harder it was for us to find, and we didn't end up finding anyone to take Cabral, right? And kind of that deal came through, and I'm sure the salary, I think it was like 20 mil. I think, yeah, 5 mil a year.
Yeah. You can't like Marcos Leonardo. Obviously, he's going to a weaker championship. He's not going to get like the fame, but I think it was a good all around sell. I think the 40 million is legit for Marcos Leonardo. Obviously he's looking for himself as well, for his family. So 5 million a year is not a joke to deny. So, but I think for us, it would have been an asset. I think Marcos Leonardo had the potential to become one of our strikers, if not the number one striker. He would be very close to it. I liked what I saw from him, and I thought that he was improving, especially as the season was developing. Moratu was on the other way, and I think what ruined Moratu was last year playing on the left back. His self-confidence was gone. He played center back this year in the preseason. He didn't look the same. He looked like slower. He looked more shakier. and I think he's young. In order to been something we could probably get back, but I think it was a bad deal for 11 million to let Morato go. Was a bad deal. I really think if Otamendi didn't renew, Morato would have been our starter with Antonio Silva, and possibly could have been our Luizão if given the time.
I think given the context, right, with Antonio Silva not leaving, Tomás Araújo staying, and like you said, Otamendi staying, I think for Morato it was going to be difficult for him because he was
another one that asked to leave possibly.
In best cases, he's third option. Worst case, he's fourth option, right? Depending on Tony and Tomás Araújo. So I think for him, he was probably also pushing for, right, like I didn't go last year, let me go now. I know people were saying, we turned away, I don't know what it was, 18 million or 20 million last year from Morato, and we let him go now for 11. But I think we also have to take into consideration the context of last year, right? We didn't have another left back, right? Because poor planning, or whatever you want to call it. So he was basically like our option in that spot, even though that wasn't his spot, right? But you have a left-footed player that can play there. So I think the context of why we turned it down makes sense when you look at the bigger picture. Obviously, we could have made more for him last year. But
we did have two options on the left side last year.
Who?
Jurasek and Carreras. Jurasek only left in January.
No, Carreras came in January.
Came in, and then we bought him in the summer.
We only have two options.
Start the season, we had Jurasek. That was it. And Bernat.
Yeah, Bernat, but he was always hurt. So, and then Carreras came in. Bernat was still hurt. And then Carreras looked a hot mess.
But you also you have to remember, Tomás wasn't like he hadn't proven anything.
Correct.
Right.
He had barely played.
Beginning of last season, he was the fourth center back. Morato was second or third because
Morato was starting, and then he got hurt.
You didn't know what you were going to get from Tony, right? Like he had a good season the year before. You didn't know.
Let's get something straight. Araújo hasn't proven anything either. He had a good preseason in one game so far this season. So
correct.
Let's see what he can prove before you say he's our second or third option.
But he also played a full season in the Portuguese league as Gil Vicente the year before, right? Where Morato hasn't had. I get it, right? Like we talk about this all the time. The pressure of playing for Benfica and playing for someone else is different. But Morato hasn't played a full season in Portugal for anyone, right? And he has that advantage to him, which in the fact that he's homegrown. Morato is too, but I think it was the right opportunity. Again, I agree with you. If Otamendi hadn't stayed, then I think obviously Morato probably stays and fights for the position, but I think he maybe felt that the writing was on the wall.
But just to think about it, we let go of a player that is a young player that potentially could be something real for Benfica.
Correct. For
11 million, and we keep in an older guy that, he's going to give us guarantees for this shit, but that's it.
Correct, but then you hope you have Tony and Araújo, and then you brought up the kid Bajrami, I think the Albanian kid,
plus
from the B team.
They bought,
and Gustavo Marques that they bought from I forgot what Brazilian team he was on loan, but he played a couple of games last year for the A team in the Taça Liga. So, I mean, I think we have a lot of options. Again, Morato is a little bit more experienced than the Bajramis and the Gustavo Marques, but again, you're not going to, right? So having a guy like Morato just sitting on the bench, he's not valuing himself anyway, right? Unfortunately, who knows? Bruno Lage could have came in and been like, I want to start him, right? And that maybe he also might look back and be like, fuck, if I had waited, right, another day, right, maybe things would have been different. But it is what it is. He's moved on. He gave us some good games. I think we all had divided opinions in terms of what he could and couldn't give us. I know we all went back and forth. He had some good performances. He had some bonehead performances. Again, maybe last year maybe impacted him mentally, and maybe he needed a change of scenery.
But don't you think a better option, because 11 million is not what we are used to selling players for, especially players that have a lot of potential? Don't you think a better option would have been a loan, and then knowing that Otamendi is not going to probably be with us next year?
Yeah, but the problem is if you saw the Relatório de Contas that Benfica released today, you'll understand why Benfica needed to sell, because our finances are just an absolute shit show right now. And that's a topic of discussion that the boys will dive into on Wednesday. But it's just alarming how bad Benfica needs to sell, and there needs to be something done with how we're managing the club. But our spend and our capital like is just on fire, right? And when you look at it now, you really understand why Benfica had to sell João Neves, why Benfica had to sell Marcos Leonardo, right? And although those later sales, João Neves, Marcos Leonardo, Morato, those didn't account for the negative 30 million, I think it was, that we reported to the CMVM in this process. They don't account for it because of the time of the transfers. Even if they had counted into them, when you add everything up, right? Like we still would have been negative or just like shortly over, right? Yeah. So like it basically almost would have been a wash at best case, right? When you consider profit, right? Because the João Neves is all profit, but then the Marcos Leonardo one isn't because you paid 20. Morato, right? Like he was homegrown, but we also paid, I think, 7 million for him originally, right? So like Benfica's finances and something needs to be figured out because we are just a fucking dumpster fire. And when you think about how much we've sold in the last 4 years and the fact that we desperately need to sell is alarming. But to your point, right? I think that 11 million was like, fuck it, let's take it and run at this point, which is scary.
You also don't know what's going on behind the scenes from the player, right? Like how much pressure is he putting on to actually want to leave?
But I don't think it would have made a difference, to be honest. When you look at the Contes, I think Benfica was basically like, all right, you want him for 11? Fuck it, let's just go. Like, and you've talked about it, Oscar, right? Like in the podcast of like, why do we have to keep selling our best players, right? We've sold X amount. We've sold Enzo, João Felix, Renato. Like the amount of players that we've sold in the last even just 4 years, and the fact that our number, like, where the hell's all this money going? Something's not right. But I'm not a numbers guy. But I can look at it and tell you that something's wrong. Diogo Luiz, who I don't like, he actually had a comment today, which I'll share with you guys after, but it was like 4 minutes, and he basically broke it down in terms of like our spend, what we're making, what we're giving away, what our whole is, and like he broke it down pretty well. And it's just like when you listen to it, it's like, what the hell is going on? So I think that 11 million was basically Benfica saying he's not going to be one of our top options. Let's just get what we can and move on from it. Quickly, I want to run through some of these comments. We got some new faces, some returning. Joshua Pereira, local. Josh, welcome. Thank God he's gone. Talking about Roger Schmidt. I had seen some of Josh's posts on Facebook over time, and he was one of the many who were not happy with Roger Schmidt. Pedro Vieira, boa noite. Good evening. David, só para dizer que o vosso gesto com o miúdo turco é uma excelente representação daquilo que o Benfica devia ser. Um abraço. Obrigado, David, e um abraço para ti. E como disse, esta semana, se tudo correr bem, iremos partilhar fotos do miúdo com o equipamento, com o nosso manto sagrado, e depois iremos partilhar nas redes sociais. SLBS, Marco wasn't even as good a scorer as Seth. 40 million is a steal. I mean, you had him for 8 months and you basically spent 20 and got 20 profit.
Was it even 20? I think it was like 17 or 18, no?
I think it was like 18 plus 2, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I don't think he had enough time to hit the bonuses.
No.
Rui says, I'm okay with him leaving. Lage looks like he's going to put Di Maria behind the striker. Finally, Di Maria can't do the wing anymore. We'll get to that and where we think they're going to play. I don't think he's going to put Di Maria behind him. I would like to see him there, right, where he doesn't have to operate as much defensively, but I don't think he will because he's got quite a few options that he can play there that are going to give you a little bit more creativity. But we'll talk about that. Says, hello, gents. Josh said, no way. I don't remember what that was referenced to. I was trying to remember as he popped it up. Sadly, Morato was declining. We had to let him go for his own good, and he was also losing value. With some regular play time, he'll flourish. Agree. I think, again, having an asset on the bench that's not going to play isn't going to help him or Benfica. Hopefully, we can replace him from the same place we picked up António Silva and Tomás Araújo. Guys, too many IFS. Só faz falta quem está, cá está. Too many IFS. What's that acronym stand for? Oh, ifs.
Read it out.
Well, it's in caps. I felt like the guy from Dumb and Dumber. What's that say? The. Oh, okay. Thanks, Oscar. It was in caps, dude. Give me a break. Was that a quarterly report or a year end? Did we lose 40 million this
Year
quarter?
end.
Or
That was
were
the
we in
year.
Yeah, it was the rear end. The year end for this. I'm all messed
Tú
up
andas
right now.
lindo, andas.
You sure you want to keep going?
Andas lindo.
I think
Come on.
there's water in this bottle.
Is that the tequila still?
IFS rear end. It's a hot start right here. Thank you, Rui, for capitalizing ifs and making me sound like an idiot. Appreciate it. All right, let's move forward. Bruno Lage or Roger Schmidt gets sacked on a Saturday. Benfica runs through a big process of reaching out. I know for sure, and I heard it fairly early on. Mingo says, "Bro, you need an energy drink or something." I do. Might have to stand up and do some jumping jacks to get the blood flowing. Mike, your edibles are kicking in. Oh, that's what those were. He got sacked on a Saturday. I know for sure that one of the first phone calls that was made, based on some conversations that I had early that day, Leonardo Jardim was one of the first ones, or the first one that was contacted. Seems that he wasn't entirely interested in the project or the moment, so he declined. Then there's rumors that we went through a variety of different people, from Abel, whose release clause was 8 million, and Benfica wasn't interested in paying that. Marco Silva apparently was also contacted. I saw rumors that Jurgen Klopp was also contacted, and he was interested, but salary wise they couldn't make it work. This was also mentioned by Paulo Foot on a TV show. I'm not a big fan of his, and I think he's an idiot, so I don't know how much credibility there is there, but he said it, and I had also read it somewhere else. There was one more, Fatih Terim, the Turkish manager who used to be Rui Costa's manager back in the day, and they get along well, was also an option, and he said, he wasn't interested. But shout out to him. He was apparently a very helpful piece to get the Turkish magician to Benfica on deadline day. They say he was a big piece to getting that unblocked, to get him to come to Benfica. So if true, shout out to him. But lo and behold, we end up with Bruno Lage, who returns after winning the Campeonato with Benfica in his first or half season, and then second season again came out guns blazing, and then COVID. It was that year of COVID. Chaos happened. The train unraveled, and we ended up coughing up the lead that he recovered his first year. We ended up coughing up in the second year. I'm going to let Oscar start with this one and kind of give us his thoughts. He's a big defendant of Bruno Lage, and I want to start by saying he wouldn't have been my first option, and I was vocal about that. I would have preferred not to have him back, just because of the way it ended. And we can sit here and debate on whose fault it was, the presidents, the players, whoever we want to blame. But with that said, right, he's the one that's chosen, and I hope as much as possible that he can come in and reproduce what he did in those first 6 months and give us attractive football, which I'm confident that he will, because I think on paper we have a much better team than what we've seen, in the last 12 months, unfortunately. I think at the very least we'll see offensive football, more attractive football. And I think given the context of the moment, he's a guy that knows the league, knows the club. The first day of his training back marked the 20-year anniversary of when he first started training the U10 kids at Benfica. So he's a guy that knows the dynamic, the expectations. They say he's a really good coach from a training perspective, really motivating for the team in training. So hopefully all that kind of gives the team a fresh air. And again, despite him not being my first option or my preference, I'm behind him 100%. And I wish, in 8 months or 7 months or whatever the case is from now till May, I'm in the back seat of Oscar's Bruno Lage school bus, cheering and chanting and telling Oscar that, he was right. He was the right choice. Oscar, how are you feeling about this?
All right. As you guys know, Bruno Lage was a guy that I respect, like from the coaches that passed through Benfica, Jorge Jesus, Rui Vitória, Roger Schmidt. Bruno Lage is to me one that left a biggest mark, and in that the way is because I like his character. I like how respectful he is. I like how he talks, and I like how players like him. Like even though a lot of you guys and a lot of people said the players made his bed, a lot of those players have come back and said he was the right choice for Benfica to come back, for Benfica to choose him to come back.
But hold on? I'm going to stop you there. Do you not think the timing of it is odd?
Timing of what?
Those players coming out and saying all that stuff,
like the day before Benfica. I mean, there was already rumors, pretty much, that it just wasn't official because Roger Schmidt's departure wasn't finalized. But you don't think it was the timing of it, of those players coming out and be like, yeah, I think Bruno Lage is going to be the right option for Benfica. You don't think the timing is odd at the very least?
If we start conspiracy theories, then let's go ahead.
No, I'm not starting a conspiracy theory. But do you think? What I'm trying to say is,
do you think Rui Costa called somebody like, "Hey, make sure you say a good thing about Lage"?
No.
So yeah.
No, what I think is that those players have nothing to gain, right, with them coming out and saying he's the right choice, right? I understand that, but for me, it's random, right? That like, what was it? It was Jonas, Rafa. Was there one more?
Grimaldo
was the other one. You don't think that it's right? Like rumors are really picking up, right? Like the day before he's made official, right? It's almost pretty much done. They were just waiting on some nuances with Roger Schmidt. And like the day before, 3 exclusive interviews of people come out and like, yeah, Bruno Lage is that right. He's a good coach. He's this, that. And again, I'm not taking away from the credibility of what they're saying, right? Because I've heard that from other people. You've read articles. I just think the timing of those conversations or those statements, I find it odd. And I can't help but think that some conversations were had of like, hey, why don't you have an interview to just kind of help this along, right? Because there was a lot of fans when the rumors broke that Bruno Lage was the option that were, all over social media and like, this can't be the choice. We can't go back to him, right? So in my eyes, I think it makes sense if that was what happened because, right, like maybe we can have some of these players who were respected by the fans come out and make these statements, and hopefully that will kind of soothe.
Yeah, but a lot of these interviews were done by the TV, the news stations from their countries. Like I don't know.
There was one exclusive record. One was record, which was exclusive. Ebola was the other one.
One was a Turkish newspaper.
I don't know. I know that 2 were Ebola and record.
Yeah, I think for Rafa's was a Turkish newspaper.
So
I'm not sure, but like I just think it's like whatever. Like that might be why are these questions? Why are these people saying these? Getting interviewed about Bruno Lage the day before it gets announced.
Yeah,
whatever. All I know is that they said it on record. Correct. They said it, and it's there.
I'm not taking away from what they said. I don't think they're lying because they have nothing to gain with it.
Nothing. Absolutely. Correct. They could have been like, no, I'm not going to say anything. Whatever. It's not my problem. Yep. You guys deal with it. Especially players that are like Grimaldo. He's Spanish. He's not like nothing to do. He's
I agree with that.
Years, but he's not like nothing to gain from it. So I like Bruno Lage. I think he showed that first season came in with when Rui Vitória was like having a horrible season. Like, we just couldn't get our shit together. And he came in, he kind of put a team together to come back from, I think it was 8 or 9 points behind from Porto.
7.
And flip it into winning a Campeonato. So like that showed that like players were on, he had a plan and he came in, he kind of put it all in place. This time, like, and then again, like the second season, he got let go because I am a true believer that he got let go. The first half of the season, we came out, we beat Sporting 5-0 in the Super Cup. And then I think we only lost 1 game to Porto the whole first half of the season. And it was all positive results with playing attractive soccer. And then COVID hit right around December to January where, players got COVID. And at that time it was like 3 weeks off or whatever it was. Like they couldn't come close to the teammates. Family members got sick. I think to me, that would have been a year. If it was the 1 year to have a bad results, would have been that year, that second half of the season. And listen, let's start fresh. And with you next season, because that's almost like a bye, like a odd half season where if something was going to go wrong, it was that half season. and we didn't. We had the first whatever like bad results, and I was looking at the results earlier today. It was not all derrotas. There's probably 2 derrotas, 1 victory, 2 ties, derrota, another victory. So yeah, it was a bad consecutive not positive results. But that shit was happening with COVID. So to me, it was like we just got rid of him way too early. And not to forget that second season that he was at Benfica after winning Campeonato, we invested nothing in him. We gave him no players. And then when fucking Schmidt came in, or Jesus came in after he got let go, it was millions wasted with Jorge Jesus. And now Roger came in, millions wasted with Roger Schmidt. And guess what? Got forgotten? The academy. We are not since I know we got some players through like Neves and Antonio Silva and all that, but like we had a plan going with Luis Fieta and Rui Costa being VP, where like we invested a lot in the academy and we brought a lot of players up, and we even though we were filling in pieces from outside, we stopped that. Now we went back to where early 2000s where we just buying a player from Germany because he's from Germany, and we're buying a player from England because he's from English. We're buying a player from Turkey because he's going to be the next fucking Zidane. Like we're not investing in home, and I really like Bruno Lage for that reason. He's a play like right now. I'm hearing rumors that João Felix's brother is going to be another guy that he might bring into the squad and kind of run. I like that kind of stuff. So I'm hopeful that it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because now all these players that he has on the squad, if not most, players that he probably doesn't know or he's not familiar with. So it's going to take a little time to adapt. And I hope there's kind of some kind of leash that we give him, because it's going to take some time to get all these players in the plan to work. And knowing our fans, they'll probably start booing by next weekend.
All right, I'm gonna
probably likes him now and probably starts booing him. And
do you want to add anything to that before I rebuttal, and I'll let Bill jump in as he?
No. I'm just. I think out of all the choices, there's a few names that I would like to see. Abel Freire being one of them. Leonardo Jardim would have been another good option. I personally think Sérgio Conceição would have been an option to get the team straightened out. But Bruno Lage to me is the guy that I respect the most.
Okay. Just quickly run through the comments. Francisco Reis, boa noite, malta do Cantinho, especialmente para o Mike. Amigos, parece que também estamos a falar demasiadamente de jogadores e treinadores, em vez de olharmos para a forma de jogar todas as nossas equipas, logo desde os iniciados. Lamento, mas não sei inglês suficiente para vos contactar. I'm sorry, só desejo benfiquistas e até sábado lá na Catedral. Amigo Francisco, um abraço para si. E pode deixar os seus comentários aqui em português, que todos percebemos e falamos português, por isso não esteja com vergonha. Deixe os seus comentários em português e aí desse lado já é tarde para você. Mas um abraço para si. E pode ser que no final de setembro eu estarei em Lisboa para ver o jogo com o Atlético de Madrid na Champions. Pode ser que nos encontremos na Catedral. Rui, let's all celebrate. Oscar and I are in agreement. Lage is legit, period. Look at this. New era, new friends. This is
Roger's gone. João Mario's gone.
This is unbelievable.
Kumbaya and bonfires.
Skipping down the road, holding hands. It's a beautiful thing. Mikey says, Luis Fieta still haunts us. I was big on keeping Lage years ago. He would have continued to build the club up and implement youth in the system. Now he's given a broken team with not many prospects on the horizon. Let's see what happens. I'm hopeful. Andrew Quadros, new name, I believe. If not, I apologize. But if you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I see you're on YouTube. Just makes me nervous that he's only had one good season since becoming a top flight manager. I like him, but the jury is out how good of a manager he actually is. I'll let Bill touch on that after. Rui says Felix too. I'm assuming he's talking about his brother. Dave, welcome back, Dave. Do you think this situation is significantly more detrimental than helpful, that he is aware he's not the first choice, but rather the safe choice? I think going back to Andrew's comment, I think he also has something to prove, right? He also said that he wished that his first stint at Benfica finished in a different way. He deserved a little bit more, and I don't disagree. So I think he also might have a chip on his shoulder to come back and prove, not to mention also he's a big Benfica fan. So I think that in itself, he might have a little bit of fire in him to really come out and make impact. Pedro says Conceição never. Don't get me started on Conceição. I know that Oscar would have accepted it. Jason would have accepted it. I'm still in the denial bus. Maggie says any Benfica that wants Conceição as a coach is questionable. Uh-oh. Oscar's not going to be happy with that. He's a JJ 2.0 and just wants to create headlines. Francisco, obrigado, Mike, pela atenção. Não esqueça, tal camisola que eu tinha prometida no tal dia, ok? Um grande abraço. Claro, Francisco, não se esqueça e entro em contato consigo quando chegar o final do mês e lá estarei na Catedral. All right. I agree with you in terms of I like his personality, right? I think he's a humble guy. He communicates well. I found it interesting in his presentation. He seemed a bit nervous, which isn't really like him. I think his first time around, I think Luis Fiera was just chomping at the bit to get his buddy JJ back in the hot seat, if I'm being honest. I think it was easy to tell from a lot of the questions that Bruno Lage was being asked in a lot of the press, the conferences de imprensa pre-match, post-match. He even called them out on it once, saying, não sei quem é que vos anda a pagar jantares ou viagens para meter alguém aqui no meu lugar. They asked him about his salary, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of situation going on in the background that played into that. Right. There's two things that you mentioned. One you've mentioned before, you didn't mention today. I guess you mentioned a little bit towards the end. One, right. I get that it's not his team, right? I get that he might not know a lot of the players. I think the only one that's remaining from previously is Florentino. Apart from that, he's the only one that's remaining. I think there's going to be a lot of new faces. As a professional manager, as a Benfica fan, obviously he knows the players. He's just never worked with them, right? Like he obviously watches the games, or some of enough to know a lot of these players. But that didn't stop him from winning the Campeonato his first time around, right? That wasn't his team.
That's false because he was there. He was a B team. So he was familiar with the players there. He was in the house.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's on the B team. He's
not
working
working
with the first team.
If you're in the Strutura, I'm sure you get to watch the 18 practice. You get to you're in the Strutura. You're there. You're in the house.
Yeah, but you're working.
Exactly.
You have your own job. He's not watching the 18
exact same time the 18 practices. Like you don't think they have the times that were, oh shit, let me go watch the 18 practice. Let me go get familiar with them. I'm sure that they are communicating with the coaches from 18 all the time.
I get that, but what I'm getting at is it wasn't his team.
Correct, but he's more familiar with those players.
Fine, I'll give you that. Wasn't his team, and he was able to turn it around. The start of the second season, right? He has a transfer window. We didn't invest, and I 100% agree with that. I think we should have, and we didn't, right? And we lost João Felix. We didn't give him the pieces, but I will also say I don't find the investment piece a valid argument because in the first half of the season, we lost one game, right? So we didn't spend money, right? We didn't give an investment, which I agree we should have. We didn't give him investment, but not giving him investment, if that was the issue, we wouldn't have had the start of the season that we had.
Wait, I can rebuttal to that. Okay, so let's go by points, okay? When we don't have enough players, just like Roger Schmidt did on the first season that he won the Campeonato, he used the same 14 players, and guess what happened? He got an advance, 14 points in advance or 11 points in advance, and then the same 12 players, 13 players that he used got tired, right? So towards the end of the season, guess what happened? We won the Campeonato by 2 points in the last jornada.
Yeah, but Roger's team didn't have a month break because of COVID.
Yeah, but he also didn't have.
I love how COVID is now a valid excuse.
It wasn't a month.
Wait, hold on.
Essentially a month.
Wait.
COVID is now a valid excuse for Lage failing, but when it was JJ struggling, and Kenny brought up COVID on the pod, it was not a valid reason for why
JJ invested 100 million, Bill. 100 million.
Okay, that's two separate fucking things.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Is COVID a valid reason for why a team would struggle, or is it not? I'm just trying to understand what the parameters and the rules are.
There's one situation where Lage is playing with a limited team, a team that's like no investment came into it. The only investments that came in is him bringing players from the B team. That's the investments that we had, right?
Yep.
And
a
then
team that he was able to get a 7-point lead with. Yep. 7-point lead first half. Got it.
Okay, hold on.
Yep.
When a crucial player goes down due to COVID, we are struggling. Just like back in the day when Aymar used to go down, we were struggling, right? Aymar is a crucial player for Benfica back then. And when Jesus was there, yeah, we could lose Di Maria and still be fine. We could lose this and still be fine because we had options. We had a lot of money invested in the team. Lage didn't. So, when one crucial player goes down to COVID, it's going to affect the team.
Who were we missing, though?
We had crucial players missing from Pizzi got COVID.
Hold on. The last game that Bruno Lage has before the break, or before the last game Bruno Lage wins before we lose to Porto in the Segunda Volta, which is the semifinals of the Taça Liga against Famalicão. Benfica has Vlaco Dimos, Grimaldo, Ruben Dias, Jardel, André Almeida, all starters. Midfield, Tarap, Gabriel, Servi, Chiquinho, Pizzi, Seferovic. On the bench, he had Zlobin, Ferro, Tomás Tavares, Florentino, Jota, Rafa, Carlos Vinicius. So I'm trying to figure out who was missing.
Okay, dude, I'm not talking about just one game in particular.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is, so that's his last win, and then we lose to Porto. Right? We lose to Porto. We tie Famalicão. We lose to Braga. We lose to Shakhtar. We beat Gil Vicente. We tie Shakhtar. We tie Moreirense. We tie Stouvel. And then we have April, May, June, 3 months off. Okay. With still a lead. Okay. We come back after a 3-month break. And this is where I struggle, right? Because I get it, right? We could have had players that were out, had COVID. I know we argued about it at the time that we thought there was rumors and conspiracy theories that the other teams weren't reporting the COVID cases like every other team was, et cetera, et cetera. But you had 3 months off and you come back and you tie 0-0 versus Tondela at home. You go away and you tie 2-2 to Portimonense. You beat Rio Ave away. You lose at home to Santa Clara 3-4. And then you go away and lose to Marítimo. That's where I struggle because everyone went into a 3-month break, right? Basically refreshed. It's almost like an extended preseason. The same team that went on a fucking rampage in the first 25 games of the season, right? So like that 3-month break, COVID can't be an excuse after that, right? Like if you want to use COVID as an excuse leading up to that, I'll give you that. But they stopped for 3 months. And then we come back from those 3 months. That same team that only lost to Porto in the first 20 games comes out and wins 1 out of 5.
And that's when he gets go.
And he gets fired at Marítimo, the away game. So how do we justify that?
Listen, any coach that goes through a phase like that and on a regular thing gets fired. I get it. But I think because that was the situation that had happened, it was a COVID year. Like nobody was like aware of what the hell is going on. Everybody was scared for their family. People take it differently, right? Like you have those 3 months off, but when people are dying on a daily at that time, you're like every time my parents or somebody got COVID, I fucking feared for their life, right?
Yeah,
so
but
players, it's a mindset. Like I'm not sure what goes through their head, dude. But I understand it because it's not the same as like having a summer off to practice. Were they even practicing those 3 months? Were they even training? I don't know. So you're saying that Porto's mindset was better than I don't. Are they not? That's a known fact. Their head is screwed on differently than Benfica.
I get what you're saying, right? Like everyone deals with it differently, but I can't wrap my head around the fact that we had a 3-month break. And again, yes, we struggled into that break. You get basically 3 months, and it's well known that during COVID, Benfica was the only team in Portugal that didn't stop paying their players. It was very well known that they gave their players everything, every resource they needed, from delivering things to their house, taking care of their families, having doctors go to their families' houses if they were sick or had any questions or concerns. So all that. So Benfica gave them everything everything they needed resources wise that no other team in Portugal did. All the other teams in Portugal stopped paying salaries during that time period. Benfica is the only club, and that's well documented, that they didn't stop. So these players had 3 months off, had virtual training sessions. They all had a regiment that they had to go through. And then again, you come back. And again, this is what I struggle with, is you come back after that. Everyone went 3 months. You come back after that. You have everything you need in those 3 months, right? And you come out flat again. That's what I'm struggling to understand. And again, I'm not sitting here saying that it's all Bruno Lage's fault, because again, I continue to say that I think the issue is further up. Could he have deserved the benefit of the doubt? I don't disagree with that, right? But when you lose a 7-point lead, it's difficult to deal with that pressure.
But even
right?
though you won it the year before, you don't get
correct.
You don't get the.
And again, I don't.
Let me ask you: Did Porto fire Sarko Sunday before, and when they lost a 7-point lead?
And I'm not denying that, but what I'm saying, you know as well as I know, that things are run differently at Benfica, right? I think we can all agree with that, right? Between the fans and the pressure, it's just the expectations are through the roof, and we just operate differently. Could they have held on to him, and could they have gone on and won the Campeonato? Probably, right? We don't know, right? Because there still was 5 games left. But we don't know that. But the fact that they derailed and fell apart, there's no denying that. With that said, I'm hopeful that he can come back with a chip on his shoulder and prove that it was just a moment. I have to check this, but of all Benfica's coaches, that may be that run that he went on of 2 wins in 13 games or 11 games might be up there with one of the worst runs any Benfica coach has had, at least in the last 20, 25 years, which is crazy to think because we've had some bad years. But again, it's not a reflection of, I don't want it to be a reflection of who he is, because that was 4 years ago, right? He's learned a lot. He's had different experiences. My last point is, right, you mentioned he, again, coming into this team, he didn't pick this team. I'm going to say, and again, what I'm going to say doesn't necessarily mean that he should have success. But I would argue that this team that he has today could end up proving to be, if the expectation turns out to what we think it is, could turn out to be the best plantel that he's had as a top-level manager in his career. Time will tell.
Name-wise, possibly. Name-wise, I could agree. But playing-wise, I don't.
Well, we'll find out, right? Time will tell.
See how these guys play. Yeah, like
correct.
Half the squad you've probably never seen play. Not half, but not that many. But there's guys on the squad that, yeah, we see highlights and you see everyone on Twitter talking about him. But like the Turkish guy, the guy,
Rui wasn't happy with Oscar. Now he's on Bill's on a Rui shit list now.
Yeah,
he's changed.
It's fine. I totally agree.
Yeah, I'm talking crazy. Yeah.
Oscar send some romance novels on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah,
we got to start messaging him.
They've kissed and made up. No, it's fine. It's okay. I'll be the one on the.
What do you want to add to this, Bill?
Listen, he wasn't my first, second, third, fourth choice. Not at all. Like, he wasn't. If you're asking me who I would have picked, he was not even on my radar. After the whole JJ, going back to JJ thing, I'm kind of over going back to past managers. I think when their time's up, and move on. I think there were plenty of options of free managers that weren't Portuguese that we could have looked at. He wasn't. Bruno Lage isn't on my radar, or wasn't on my radar as a potential manager. But like you said at the beginning, he's here. I'm going to support him, and hopefully he proves me wrong, like Roger proved Oscar wrong that first year. And if he does, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. But to sit here and be happy with a manager who's failed everywhere since he's left Benfica, it doesn't make me feel comfortable. Like, he went to Wolves when he took over at Wolves. The 3 seasons prior at Wolves with Nuno, they had finished 7th twice, and Nuno's last season, when he got sacked, they finished 10th or 13th. Then Bruno took over. He got them up to 10th. The following season, he spends 100 mil in the transfer market and gets sacked in the relegation zone.
9 games.
How many games in?
9 games in.
He won 2 games
in the relegation zone after spending 100 mil. Gets sacked.
But Bill, you're saying after spending 100 mil, 100 mil is nothing in UPL.
For Wolves, that's a significant
that's
transfer
nothing
budget.
in UPL. Guaranteed they spend more money in
ready?
season than they do.
I got the stats for you.
Okay, go ahead.
3 seasons prior for Nuno, they spent 82 mil. Nuno's first season there, 98 mil. Nuno's second season there, 79 mil the following season.
Okay,
Nuno,
so
the third season
up there.
Yep, and then they gave him more. He spent more than Nuno ever spent. And
what did Bruno spend the first season?
That first season, 40, 37.5. Right.
Why, I don't get why these residents don't.
So he did better in his first season with less money.
He did better in his first season when he didn't spend money. He went from 13th to 10th. He climbed 3 spots.
That spending money doesn't guarantee you anything.
He didn't pick his own players. When he just took over the team and just plugged in a few, he did better. When he picked his players and spent 100 mil, he went from 10th to the relegation zone in 8 games.
In 8 games. But the thing is,
9.
9 games.
Yeah, well, but you got sacked in the 9th game. But I think we should
he won 1 game. He won 1 game in those 9 games. 1 win, 3 draws, and 4 losses in the league. After spending 100 mil.
Mike has a good point. What players did they get rid of? They wasted 100 million. You guys talked about Jesus. Yeah, 100 million, but then we sold 60. So how many players did they get rid of that year?
I'll tell you right now. Let's see. That year they actually spent 177 million. And
probably net. It was probably 100.
So their overall balance is minus 114. So that year incoming, Mateus Nunes, Gonçalo Guedes, Hee-chan Hwang from Leipzig, who was a big buy for 16 million. Mateus Nunes was 45, Gonçalo 32, Nathan Collins 24, João Gomes midfielder 18 mil, Kaladzic 18 mil, Lemina, who he might still be there now, 11, Sarabia, that was at Sporting 5. Let's see, departures, Mateus Cunha, that was there. Departures, Morgan Gibbs White, which is the kid that's at Nottingham Forest. Dendonka, Ruben Vinagre. Apart from that, there's no one on here that's a big departure for them. And they brought in some
big names,
decent names,
big price tags.
Yeah, but let's the players that he got in, Guedes, Nunes, and stuff like that. Those are actually good players. That I mean, I would want them on my team.
I'm not saying otherwise, but he failed with those players. He brought in good players and failed. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying the players were bad, that it was bad signings.
Yeah, but again,
he brought in good players.
But we can also
failed.
But in defense, right? I'm going to play the other side of the fence. Is we can also contextualize it and say, right, the EPL is also significantly more challenging, right? And we can also sit here and debate and say, well, Mateus Nunes at Manchester City, he hasn't been able to establish himself there either, right? Gonçalo Guedes has been dropped around and hasn't, right? So while on the surface, I think we can debate both sides of this, right? Whereas he spent money and he didn't succeed in his second season, he spent less, right? And when you look at it for Benfica, he spent no money essentially in his first 6 months and guns blazing, right? And I'd have to go back and look, but I'm assuming we made some transfers, obviously not big transfers in that next year, and we failed, right? So I think moral of the story is I think we can all agree that we're hopeful that we can see the same soccer we saw in his first 12 months, right? Taking out from March of his last year till when he got sacked against Maritimo. I'm confident that he has the mindset, he has the type of soccer, and with the pieces that we have on the squad, I think he can make it work. At least I'm very optimistic that will be the case. But again, time will tell. I think in his favor, when he started for Benfica, he played Rio Ave at home. And I think that helped a lot, right? Starting off a game at home.
I think it was a beat at Volta, right? We were losing.
Yeah, we were down 2-0 like 15 minutes in, and then we came back. Felix scored 2 and Seth scored 2. Right, and he's home again against Santa Clara, the same Santa Clara, not the same players, but the Santa Clara that beat him, right? That started the unraveling of the shit show. So again, I think on top of the fact that he a few months ago said that he hoped that the season would have ended or his time at Benfica would have ended differently, on top of playing a home game, on top of the fans being frustrated with the way we've played in the last 12 months. Again, I think that in itself, and I will also say, apart from certain moments in the last 20 years, Bruno Lage, I think, could be one of the ones that really had the fans with the team during his time, right? Like I can think of that 10-0 against Nacional, right? Like just the atmosphere in the stadium. Obviously, winning 10-0 is something that doesn't happen often, but just the atmosphere around the team, right? The away game against Sporting that we went and won, the away game against Porto that we win 2-1. I was actually watching that at your house, Bill, where Rafa scores the 2-1, and we end up jumping into first place. And then I think the other time that I can remember is when Benfica lost at home against Sporting 3-0 with Rui Vitória, and the stadium was singing despite that loss, right? So I would say he's...
I think it was Jorge Jesus.
No, it was Rui Vitória. Jorge Jesus was the other coach. Yeah, he was the other coach.
Yeah.
So I think he has some of that going with him. There are fans that wanted him. There's some that don't. I'd probably say it's maybe somewhere down the middle. But I think overall, people at least are relieved that, you know, Roger Schmidt's gone, and hopefully we're going to get a restart here. And it's still early enough in the season. I want to quickly, before we close out, Oscar, what do you think will be his 11 based on how he likes to play, and obviously with the players that are available? How do you think he'll line up?
Dude, it's tough, and I'll tell you, like now players not being there, right? So he's basically a lot of the players on international duty. That we
should all get back tomorrow and Wednesday, right?
Right. But right now he's still. It's going to be probably the toughest game to line up. He might go with a safe bet and just play the same team and kind of like given a few tactical differences from Roger Schmidt, but I don't know if he's going to change too much in the first 11. I think he's going to go Trubin. Right back is going to be obviously Otamendi and Antonio Silva. Carrera is going to be there. I don't see another option there. I think he might just go Florentino. I don't think Barreiro might.
I was about to say that's where I think you could see a change. You don't have the double pivot.
I think he goes Florentino, Coxu behind the striker with Pavlidis, and I believe he goes Di Maria. And who am I missing, dudes?
Left wing,
probably. Yeah, Rollheiser maybe.
I don't know.
Auschwitz isn't fit, or I don't think he'll be fit yet.
So you need another center,
another midfield,
and then another winger.
Dude, I don't know if he goes Renato Sanchez. I know he's probably a fan of his, but I doubt he goes Renato Sanchez. But I can see it.
I heard he played well when he went in against Moreirense. I didn't see that game, but I heard he played well.
No, he did. He came in well.
Yeah, so I can see it, but I think Coxu behind the striker, Renato and Florentino might be it, dude. And then with the Perisiani on the left.
Okay, Bill, how do you think he's going to line up?
No, I agree with Oscar. I think it's going to be probably safer than we would want, right? Like I feel a lot of fans want a lot of changes, but I feel like it's not just because of the international duty. I think it's going to be. I think for what Oscar said, I might agree with that. My only question is Renato in the middle.
So
he might just
Barreiro.
Well, or Rollheiser.
So just let me recap. So you said Trubin, Ba, center backs was Otamendi and who?
Antonio Silva.
Antonio Silva, Carreras, because Best is out.
Yeah.
Midfield, Trinco, you had Tino.
Florentino.
Di Maria on the right.
I think he's going to be in the lineup with the Lage.
Yeah.
Okay. Tino Di Maria on the right. Who was on the left?
Well, Cristiani on the left, and then I'm going to say Coxu behind the striker, Pavlidis, and then
missing one.
And then Renato. I think he might go to Renato, but that's my only if.
You agree with that, Bill?
Yeah, I don't think it's far off. I mean, there's
We're playing at home.
I know, and like you would like to see. I mean, Cristiani can play out wide, and I would like to see more changes. But I feel like with the international duty, only getting players back, some tomorrow, some on Wednesday, game being Saturday. Like I just don't think he's going to go into it and change a ton. So I think my only question marks would be Renato in the left wing. But I think Cristiani's been playing. I think he gets a shot at the left wing, and then potentially, if Renato doesn't play, then I think it's Rollheiser.
I'm gonna go. So the back line, I think he might go. And don't forget, Lage is a guy that came in and wanted to shake things up his first time around. So he's not afraid to do that. So I'm going to go Trubin, Ba. Otamendi's with the national team. I don't know when their next game is. It might be tomorrow. So he might get here late. So I'm going to go Tomas and Tony. He's a Seychelles guy. He's going to know them. And I'm going to go Carreras on the left. I would have said Barreiro, but I'm going to say Tino only because Tino's not at the national team and he's been practicing with him from day one. But Tino's a guy that wasn't playing regularly with Lage after the 4th game in his last season. And it was well before Weigl came. So I'm going to say Tino just because of he's been working with him longer than Barreiro. I'm going to go Di Maria on the right. I think Kokshu will be behind Pavlidis, like you said. I'm going to go Sheldrup on the left because
Is
he's also
back? Is he back?
Yes.
He's been training. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been training. Yeah. So he's been working with him since day one. And then I'm going to go with Renato because he's also been training with him.
Yeah.
And I think those might be him having some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know Charles Droop already back, but
he was practicing.
But I think Cristiani is a solid option as well. I think
I don't disagree.
My only concern with Charles Droop is match fitness, but that'd be the only concern.
Correct. But
same thing with
the guys also.
Same thing with Renato. I don't think he's match fit yet either.
But then you got guys that then you got guys that can come off the bench like Amdouni, the Turkish kid, right? So you got like players that can come in and make a difference with speed, with creativity. Rollheiser is another one, right? So I think that's what I think he'll line up with. Let's see what these people are saying here. Rui says Renato's not in game shape. Mikey says, I feel like Lage is going to love Rollheiser and Sheldrup. Pedro says, Trubin, Bas, Silva, Otamendi, Carreras, Tino, Sanchez, Kokshu, Di Maria, Pavlidis, and Turkish guy Ertuğrul.
Yeah, that guy, he just showed up, so I'm not sure if...
but that would be a strong, right? That would be a strong... I think their last game...
You need a few practices with the team.
Well, today was their last game.
Yeah, so
they're not playing again, so he'll have a week.
Turkey's done, yeah. Turkey's already done. I think I had seen him in Koksu, or I think Koksu posted something on social. They're already on a private plane on the way back.
Yeah, but when is Benfica's next match?
Saturday.
Correct. So that gives us 2 days.
It's the same thing with same thing with all the international players.
Yeah, but those guys have played together with each other. This guy hasn't played with any of them.
Fair. SLBS says, is Auschwitz back yet? I think he's out for another week, if I'm not mistaken. If he is on the left wing, I don't think that we'll see Auschwitz on the left wing anymore.
No, I think the purchase of this Turkish guy, I think,
correct.
Kind of,
and Amdouni can play out there,
right? Kind of indicates that we might see Freddie back in the.
I think
in the middle.
Auschwitz on a left-hand side was very much a Roger Schmidt idea. It works, right? If we need him to play there. But I think we probably won't see him out there again unless we really have to.
I think he's a better option on the right side. Left side, I don't get it. With the strikers that we have
now, because he's right-footed.
When he plays on the right side, when Di Maria comes out and Arsene goes on the right side, he actually gets some good crosses in, and he's goes deep. We need something like that. Like with Di Maria on the left, on the right, and the Arsene's on the left, it's always cut in to cross with the right foot, and that never gets the striker any any chances.
Yeah. Rui Mark says Trubin, Otamendi, Silva, Carrera, Tinu, Karem, Koksu, Prestiani, Di Maria, and Pavlidis. It's a very offensive minded.
He's trying to do Maria behind the striker, which is not a bad option. I think Di Maria could work out behind the striker.
Yeah. I forgot about the Turk. He might be on the left after today. He started on the left. Yeah, he started on the left and he likes to cut in. That's how he scored the second goal. Third goal, he looked like he was playing striker. Cut in behind.
I was able to say one of them. He looked like he was central.
I saw the highlight. So he's a right footer.
Yeah.
So another guy playing on the left side comes in and shoots.
Yeah. But I think he can use both feet, if I'm not mistaken.
He's fast.
Rui says it's a 4-1-3-2. Our left backs are our weakest link. Wyatt Auschnitz is put in the left wing. Yeah, but I think that's also because our team wasn't very balanced. Right? Like I think we have the pieces. I think Carreras has evolved a little bit. I think if you have the right pieces to be able to press, right, I think doesn't unbalance the team as much. Let me just run back on some of these that we missed. Let's see. Mikey says 3-month break alone fucks the momentum, just like how teams play like shit after an international break. Odd year that should have been looked at through at different lens. I mean, Jesus, Gabriel, Jardel, Gabriel, older Almeida, underdeveloped Diaz, Seth Starty did play well just as an okay squad again. But
I agree, Mike.
If this all happened, I would agree if this all happened from the start. It didn't, right? And that's what I wrap my head around. I need to wrap my head around.
Good enough
again,
to
each their own. We're all going to have different views and opinions.
I think that year that he got sacked, I think we had Ferro as a starter, and then that Ferro second year was like a fucking nightmare.
I don't remember. I'd have to go back. But yeah, we know how Ferro turned out.
Ferro did drop off like crazy.
Let's see. Lidio says, gosto desse programa, viu Benfica, abraço em Lidio. Joey says, I know it's a results game, but that Wolves team played well. Unfortunately, no striker, no goals. SLBS says JJ sucked at Sporting, then went to win everything in Brazil, then came back and sucked again. You never know about these things. It's a crapshoot. Exactly. Right? Like Bruno Lage can come back and fucking tear it up, right? And could relaunch his career, right? And like you said, JJ went to Brazil, won Copa Libertadores. I think he won the Mundial de Clubs with Flamengo, if I'm not mistaken. Right, and then comes back for round 2 at Benfica and struggles heavily. And so again, it's a moment game, and if the ball goes in, everything's great. If it doesn't go in and hits the post, then you start seeing the criticism. So I get it. Pedro says Cristiani hasn't done much in the 4 league games. I wouldn't start him. He can sub Di Maria on the right. I agree with this. We talked about it on one of the previous podcasts. I think he looked good in the Eusebio Cup. He's shown some moments of brilliance. I think when games started to get serious, he hasn't looked as free. I feel like he's been unable to really show that creativity. But again, he was basically a one-man show, right? Like we were banking on him being the creative unit for the team, right? Here's this 19-year-old or 20 or over, I think he's 18. Right. If I'm the opposition, I'm like, okay, we just shut him down. Right, close him down quickly. Don't give him much space. Make someone else beat us. Who's going to beat you? Tinu? Barreiro?
Yeah, and the teams we played in the preseason are very different.
Compact and set deep. Yeah,
are very different.
Oh, well, in the preseason, like
are very different
an open game.
Teams that we're playing in the league. In the league, you sit back. They get to sit back and keep everything compact.
Yeah, I agree. So. But again, there's no reason for us to rush him, right? He's still a young player. He seems to have a lot of room for growth and development, and we have other options that we can kind of mix and match. And if there's anything that we know about Bruno Lage, he's good with the youth and is able to help develop some players. So hopefully, I mean, we have enough youth in this squad to be able to develop. So hopefully I'm just more to finish. I'm really hopeful that our fans can just give him the opportunity, because the moment right now with our fans and the president and all this stuff is just super toxic. And I really hope that we can just get behind him and the team, right? Whether you like him or not, I think I speak for all when I say what we want is to win, right? And to win titles and to win games. And whether that's with person A, B, C, D, or E on the bench, I don't care. Right? We play well. we win games, I think everyone will be happy. And I did like that from Bruno Lage in his presentation where he said, you know, I hate when the journalists ask, "Que pode prometer aos benfiquistas?" Like, what the fuck you think he's going to kick by prometer? Vai prometer títulos? Like, he can't guarantee that, right? But he said, prometo muito trabalho, bom futebol, right? Which, like, I really hope if we can get that, I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, because the rest of the talent that we have will speak for itself. Well, like
Exactly.
once we get good soccer, bom football,
everything will fall into
everything
place.
else will fall into place.
Yes,
we have the talent to make it fall into place.
We just haven't had bon football, so everything didn't fall into place.
Just think about this. Bon football equals opportunities, right?
Correct.
And that's something we don't have. And I think with strikers that we have now, with players, the offensive players we have, opportunities will lead to goals because we have the talent. And I think we just need the bon football part to come through.
I agree. Bill, to finish off, last words.
I'm just hopeful that we see. I'm hopeful that we get the footy of the Bruno for those 10 months and not, or whatever it was, and not the post-COVID, post-break, whatever. And I'm hopeful. But like I said, he wasn't my choice, but he's our manager, and I'm behind him. And we have the talent's there. I mean, the team is very talented. The team's deep, and just hopeful that he can kind of mastermind it and get it all functioning the way it should be.
Oscar, final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, I hope that we give Bruno Lage, us fans, all of us, the Direção, a little bit of a leash, because he's going to need it. He's going to need it to get this team together, because right now we have a lot of talent, but they hasn't been playing well at all. Like, we haven't seen anything. So for them to change that from talent to playing good football, we need time. And just the fans are probably not going to get. That's my only scare, is that the fans don't give him time to do it.
I think, and I agree, right? Like, and that's why I said, like, I think we need to just get behind him. I will say that if there was ever a moment where the margin for error is like almost non-existent, I think it's now, because of and unfortunately it's not Bruno Lage's fault. Right? Like, unfortunately, it's the fault of the chaos that's surrounding the club and the discontent with the president, right? And I agree with you. I think there's a lot of people who don't like the fact that they signed him, and at the first opportunity, they will be the first ones banging at the door saying, "Told you he wasn't the right option," which I hate, right? I hated it with Roger Schmidt, although I can put my hands up and say, you know what, I was way too optimistic and it got the best of me. And I can agree that, you know, maybe we should have parted ways with him at the end of last season. But I think time will tell, but I really hope at the very least fans can get behind him. And at least I think if the fans can show that they are behind him starting against Santa Clara, with the team that we have and the type of soccer that he likes to play, I think the pieces can fall into place, and at the very least we can play really good ball, right?
And catch momentum. We need momentum.
Correct. And we saw what momentum did with him the first time.
Yep.
Right? Like, once the fans get behind the team, once the players get some confidence, like, you just never know what the hell can come of it. So time will tell, but hopefully it's a positive outcome for him, mainly because, not just because he's our coach, but because he's a Benfica fan, and I know that if anything, he wants to, you know, get this train back on track, and also from a personal perspective wants to get maybe the last word when it comes to the fact that he was sacked last time, and maybe he felt it was unfair. SLBS says, I hate to say it, but financially we need to guarantee Champions League spot. That's why he's here. Yes, we absolutely need to, because we're struggling financially, apparently. Pedro, boa noite. Carrega Benfica. Abraço, Pedro. Rui, good night, guys. Keep me in the loop, because I'll give you an in-game knowledge during that game. Why do you keep putting stuff in caps, dude? You're making me think. God.
Give you INGAME.
Give me game. Okay, got it. Pedro says Lage forever. Thank you for those who are tuning in. There was a lot of new names, a lot of names that are regulars. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, share, do all the things on social media. We appreciate all you guys following us. Tuesday or Wednesday evening, or 4:30 p.m. Boston time, 9:30 p.m. Portugal time, we'll have the Portuguese podcast with Luis. yeah, I think that's it. We'll be back next week. We got Santa Cloud on Saturday. Hopefully it's a W for Bruno Lage and the boys. And stay tuned. We've got some exciting news that we're working on in the background coming soon in the coming months. As things start to solidify, we'll start to keep you guys in the loop. But we've got some stuff that we're working on, and hopefully we can talk to you guys about it soon. And again, this week, hopefully I can share some photos of our Turkish buddy with his new Benfica kit. Gentlemen, as always, a pleasure. Viva Sport Lisboa Benfica, and we will chat next week. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Yeah, boys.